So coming off of the previous chapter, we saw the end of Higuruma's domain expansion Deadly Sentencing because it wound up giving Sukuna confiscation and the death penalty. With the death penalty, it gave Higuruma the Executioner's Sword in order to carry out said death penalty because whoever is cut by it will die with no exception, even Sukuna. And as for confiscation, it normally takes a Sorcerer's Curse technique, but in this instance, it took Sukuna's Curse tool, which allowed Sukuna to freely use his Curse technique against Kusakabe and Higuruma, where he seemingly killed them, but no, coming into this chapter, we're seeing that they survived. And that's because Kusakabe was able to use his simple domain at the last second to weaken the slashes. And this is because over that 1 month break before the Gojo versus Sukuna fight, they were able to drastically improve their cursed energy enhancement skills. Then we get some inner monologue exposition from Kusakabe here about the techniques that Sukuna used to cleave and dismantle. So first of all, he did not hit Kusakabe with the quote-unquote world cutters or the slashes that cut at an atomic scale, the ones that he learned from Maharaga after analyzing Gojo's Limitless. And Kusakabe wonders if he needs to charge or there's like a binding vow to expand it or something. And either is applicable at this point, but I'm going to assume that he has to like use way more cursed energy to be able to perform that because he is still coming off of the Gojo fight directly into this fight. So he's still not completely fresh. Then he says that Sukuna has two slashes, Dismantle, which is the regular slash, and Cleave, which changes depending on the strength of the opponent. And the further exposition here I like from Gege because he's just clarifying what we've been seeing these last couple chapters with Sukuna. So he says the slash that flies is Dismantle, which he just said is the regular quote-unquote slash. But the slash that divides the world, the atomic cutter one, that's Cleave with an expanded target. And Dismantle activates when it touches the target, except for when it's in the Malevolent Shrine domain, then it just cuts everything up. And that's like a really efficient way of using the curse technique. I mean, this is Sukuna after all. So I like that that's been clarified here. Even though we kind of knew it, it's just that Sukuna never like says what he's doing most of the time. He just fires off stuff. But then Kusakabe is like, what's weird is that he doesn't use the fire that he used in Shibuya. The big fire arrow thing that he used to kill Jogo. And he just assumes, well, I guess he just can't use it right now. And that's hilarious because we were wondering that throughout the entire Gojo versus Sukuna fight. It's like, why isn't he using this against Gojo? And there was never an explanation. It was actually never even mentioned. So I guess there is some reason that he can't use it or doesn't want to use it. But considering that it's being mentioned here, it's for sure going to come back. Probably soon, because that thing is incredibly powerful. Then Sukuna is about to go after the sorcerers again, but Choso comes in and fires off a piercing blood. And Sukuna's just like, nah. He just goes battle manga final boss mode, instantly appears in front of Choso, and then Dragon Ball Z style stabs him through the abdomen with his hands. Choso's really wrecked by this, obviously, and I don't know if this is like the end for him. Yuji is able to grab him, and I guess he puts him off to the side or something, but man, this would be pretty anticlimactic if this is how Choso dies. There's got to be more to this, or you'd think that Choso would have reverse curse technique at this point. But anyway, Ino comes into the battle, and he has Nanami's blunted blade, and he instantly swings it at Sukuna, but Sukuna blocks it with his forearm, which I guess is a callback to when Nanami used this initially against Mahito. He blocked in a similar fashion, but that messed Mahito up. But this is Sukuna after all, and Sukuna's like, that's a harder hit than I expected. I see the blunt blade has Nanami's curse technique in it, which is amazing. So we saw before in the 1 month time skip before Gojo versus Sukuna that Ino was going to talk to Gojo and Shoko about Nanami. We didn't know what it was until now. Apparently Nanami's curse technique has been imbued into the blunt curse tool thing, which is incredible. This is a great way for Nanami to live on, and that technique is pretty powerful. It like divides you into 7 sections, and then the third one is like a critical point, so it just amplifies the strike, and that's how he was able to break open Mahito's arm. And this is why I guess Sukuna is saying that was harder than I expected, because he got hit with a critical strike. Then he knocks Ino away, but Ino like takes it, like he blocks it successfully with the blade, and he's still in this battle. but we don't see him for the rest of the chapter. Then Sukuna continues to fight Kusakabe, Higuruma, and Yuji, and he's just going all over the place, you know, lighting them up. And they're like, we can't leave Higuruma alone because he is like the queen on this chessboard right now. With the Executioner sword, if he just hits Sukuna once, he'll kill him. So they need to protect him, obviously. But Sukuna's just so fast and agile that they can't keep up with him. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Hofsco, because they just released their new Xander Max 10-inch folding electric scooter, and this is your last chance to save big on it during their holiday season Christmas sale. If you were looking for the best way to make your commutes, well, here it is. The Xander Max has a 500-watt peak powerful motor and can go up to 19 miles per hour and has a 15-degree uphill climb. It also has a 3-speed mode, which varies between fastest for a thrilling ride, medium for a balanced pace, or low for leisure strolls. You can maintain this all on its intuitive LCD display. It has a max range of 30 miles from a 36-volt, 10.4 Ah lithium-ion battery and 10-inch tires, as well as a double brake system, which is highly responsive, energy-saving, and improves riding safety. It's also foldable and very portable. Just look at how light this is. The foldable frame can be folded up in only one step and is easy to store in cars and public transport. I personally love the Xander Max because of how simple and efficient it is. Being a full-time content creator living in the inner city, I don't need or really want a car, so the Xander Max is perfect for somebody like me. Or if you just don't have a car in general because, you know, it's too expensive and a headache, not to mention the price of gas, this can be the new easy way that you get around. Because for me, whether I'm running an errand or shopping, the Xander just makes my life that much easier. But to be honest, even if I had a traditional job, I would use the Xander Max for my commute anyway. Every week I see like multiple people paying to use public scooters, which can really eat away at your bank account. Because of course the better option is to just buy your own scooter like the Xander Max. And now's the best time ever because it's currently $250 off, making it one of the most affordable high quality scooters on the market. Like, this is really a good deal. So check out the link in my description to get yours now. Thanks, guys. And as he's going into a building that he knocked Higuruma into, we're cutting to a flashback of the, I guess, 1 month skip before Gojo versus Sukuna. And they talk about Higuruma's Executioner sword, saying that this is a way that they can save Megumi because Judge Man is able to distinguish between multiple souls inside of a vessel, which is the case with Sukuna. Sukuna took over Megumi's body and then suppressed his soul and kind of like on the forefront of it. So there's two inside of Megumi at this point. And when a death penalty is given by Judge Man, it will only kill the person who was deemed guilty, which makes sense because, man, it would just be way too powerful if you just got the Executioner sword and you could just go on a rampage and kill everyone with it. So this means, in theory, that when they get the Executioner sword, which they have now, if they cut Sukuna with it, only Sukuna will die and Megumi will still live. But it's also like, what is exactly going on with Megumi's body? Because what we see of Sukuna now is still technically Megumi's tissue, right? Unless there's like some kind of jujutsu illusion going on, or it's not really explained to be honest, but I do think that this will for sure end with Megumi being saved at some point, or Sukuna being pulled from him to some extent, because Yuji also has some kind of soul manipulating ability, or it's implied that he does. Before Tsukumo died, she gave Choso like this book on how souls work or research and whatever, and he gave it to Yuji, and throughout that 1 month time skip, he seemingly studied it and was able to swap bodies with Kusakabe, an ability that we still haven't seen come back yet, but that is for sure going to come back. I mean, Chekhov's gun. But I for sure think that that will play into how Megumi is saved here. As for the Executioner sword being used, I mean, I guess it has to be used at some point, but I just don't think it will be used to kill Sukuna. That would just be too easy. Then we come back to Sukuna going after Higuruma, and we saw him fire off some, I guess, dismantles at him, which like completely chopped the building apart. But now we see that Higuruma has survived it yet again, and that's because on the fly, he was able to learn domain amplification amplification. This is not the same as simple domain, which we saw Kusakabe use at the beginning of the chapter. It's apparently better because Sukuna immediately makes the distinction between the two. He's like, he used simple domain to decrease my curse technique, but not as much as domain amplification, meaning that domain amplification gives you a better defense than a simple domain does. So yeah, this is incredible. Higuruma is a genius unlike we've seen before, because it says that he was able to develop this less than 2 months after he awakened as a sorcerer. And it was already established that he was a genius from the get-go, like when we were first introduced to him. But now we're seeing that apparently he is even more of a genius than Gojo, because even the narration is like the prospect that can match with Gojo is shining. So yeah, Higuruma is an absolute beast. He has one of the best curse technique and domain expansions ever. I mean, just the Executioner Sword alone is the strongest thing ostensibly in Jujutsu Kaisen, right? Killing anyone without exception. And now he just learned domain amplification on the fly. And it was also mentioned earlier in this chapter that he doesn't have reverse curse technique, so Yuji is worried about him dying. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets that too, right? Because Akotsu kind of just figured it out on the fly, and Higuruma is implied to be even a greater genius than him, right? I mean, if he's up there with Gojo, then he's better than Akotsu. So I'm for sure see reverse curse technique on the horizon, but again, I think Gege might be lulling us into a false sense of security here because it just seems too good, right? There has to be some kind of tragedy that happens. Unless Gege has just successfully traumatized us into thinking that there can be no good without bad in this series. But like I said, I doubt that Sukuna is going to die by the Executioner Sword, but the Executioner Sword will come into play with some kind of big sequence. I assume so, right? And also, for some reason, I feel like Kenjaku might take over Higuruma. I don't know why I feel like that, but it just seems like something is going to happen like that, you know? And I know that Kenjaku is technically dead right now, or he's just ahead because, you know, it was cut off by Akotsu, but him saying that his will live on, we still need to see what comes of that. But yeah, let me know what you think about this in the comments. And if you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day and I'll see you in the next one.